Okay, so now we're going to look at prime numbers. Okay, so what are prime numbers? Prime numbers are numbers that can only be divided by themselves and 1. If a number like 7, for example, if I ask you, can you divide 7 by anything? The answer is no. It can only be divided by itself and 1. But can you divide it by anything else? No, you cannot. So 7 is called a prime number. One of the things important about prime numbers is that they allow us to be able to use debit cards. That's part of the technology, is that we use that in encryption or cryptography. Prime numbers have a big purpose in their use. So the first thing to know about prime numbers is there's a little bit of history with prime numbers, and then there's applications of prime numbers, and then there's also the mathematical application. The mathematical application. So let's do that with prime numbers, okay? Remember, one of the main things you need for this class is just to take your notes and then turn in those notes, put your name at the top of the page. I'll have Mr. Brooks take a picture maybe of each person's notes, or like just take a picture, and then we can look at how things are looking, okay? For each person. So everybody learn to take good notes. This is the first step to being exceptional in mathematics. So the history of prime numbers quickly. The man behind that is a man by the name of Euclid. Euclid was a Greek mathematician. He lived around 320 BC, around 300 BC. He lived around the time of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Mostly, I would say Plato, Aristotle. And Euclid changed the world of mathematical and logical reasoning. He wrote a famous book called The Elements of Geometry. And we have that on our website. People can find it for free online. It's in Greek and in English. We have that. Well, I have the version that is Greek and English. So Euclid is the person that gave us this framework, and part of the framework can be there's another guy called Eratosthenes that gives us a way to find prime numbers. That's the exercise we're going to do. Is I'm going to teach you how to find the first set of prime numbers. Okay, the application of prime numbers is in cryptography. So the way you can think of this math class is, if you ever find a topic or a person that you're very interested in, I want to encourage you to do more research. It's kind of like a Montessori approach. If you love prime numbers, for example, then do more research with prime numbers. So that's what I would say for the application section. Mathematical application of prime numbers. They allow us to find the lowest common multiple, the greatest common factor, and working with fractions. They make working with fractions much easier. So if you know prime numbers, fractions are going to be easy for you, like very easy, because prime numbers break numbers down to a form that you can use them. And I'll show you the example of that today as we land our plane here shortly. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, recap. So Euclid is the person behind prime numbers. Cryptography is the field where we study, like different ways to hide code or to make it so people can't steal our information. And then mathematical application of prime numbers, lowest common multiple, greatest common factor, and how to work with fractions. Prime numbers makes it much easier for everybody. There are an infinite number of prime numbers. This is crazy, okay? You're going to hear me talk about this again at some point. There is an infinite number of prime numbers. That is fascinating, because if you think about it, prime numbers don't repeat. I mean, they don't have a pattern like regular numbers have a pattern. Like even numbers or odd numbers, those are easy patterns. Prime numbers are just, you're going to see when we do our exercise. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to do something called the sieve of Eratosthenes. The sieve of Eratosthenes. So in your notes, please go ahead and write prime numbers. I'll give you some examples, and then I'll clean the board, and we'll find, let's find the first 20 prime numbers, okay? So the examples of prime numbers will come when we do the sieve of Eratosthenes. So please go ahead in your notebooks. After you write this, let me give you a second. Once you write this, I'm going to clean this, and let's work on the sieve of Eratosthenes.